There we go.
It's what I had to rotate my.
Doing it a little different tonight, so.
Yeah, bear with us. Hit the wrong button. Yeah, so am I going to be able to do it this way?
Yeah?
Yeah.
But the other way, because to me, you look turned sideways.
Am I sideways?
Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, we're joining in from two different spots tonight, so it's a little different than even what we've done the last few times. So welcome back to MonuMENTAL Minds, where every mind matters. I'm Mariah Raye.
I am Megan Rose. We are the co-owners and co-founders of MR2 Connections Incorporated. And we are back for the second full episode of MonuMENTAL Minds, and we're going to be able to share a little bit of Mariah's story and her journey with mental health and some of the things that she's overcome. Our big mission with MonuMENTAL Minds is just having that platform to not only have ourselves, it holds us accountable and it keeps us to a higher standard that we want to live by, and we want to empower other people to do the same. And sometimes it's just a matter of knowing that there's a safe place out there where you can share your story and your journey, and you can relate to other people and connect in different ways that maybe you wouldn't have access to in everyday life. Oh, welcome, Mariah. Thank you so much. I know it's hard. It's not the easiest thing to talk about.
Right.
So, you were very young when mental health first started to really be a factor in your life. Tell us a little bit about what happened when you were 5 at a
Yeah.
age.
Yeah, definitely. So, I think for a lot of people, when mental health first kicks in, right, if you start realizing that it's affecting you, you're so young, it's really hard to understand. So although you know something is going on, you may not understand it fully, just kind of similar in your story. And so at 5, my parents got separated, but I didn't really know what that was. My brothers did because they were older than me. So they kind of got the idea of what was going on, but I was young and I was just kind of going with things, right? I heard it, didn't really understand it. But I think subconsciously things were like starting to affect me then because that was such a big change, and I didn't know that till a little bit later, till those things started to change. But that, of course, affects anybody that comes from a family that their parents get separated. So I think it probably started that young, whether I really understood or not.
And as you got a little bit older, you were 12 when you had another major event in your life. And tell us how that affected you and how your journey evolved and how you really started to come to understand what's really important.
Yeah. So after the separation happened, I of course lived with my mama. That kind of wasn't even a question for me. My mom has always been my go-to, and the one I've been with. So I lived with her, and I kind of realized, we're big vibe people. So I feel like we know when like the vibes are off or, something like that. And I always knew that somewhere deep down that things were different between myself and my dad and my brothers and my dad. So I kind of started to wonder about that. And then when I was 12, I went to dinners with my brother and dad. But after dinner was the shocker. So he brought myself to the park. I happened to live in Naperville at that time. So it brought me to the park and told me that he was signing his rights away from me. And it was nothing personal, but financial. So
That's really hard. That's really hard. Like, how do you even come to accept that at such a young age? It's like your mom always had protected your energy and somebody that you.
yeah, so I think like from then everything kind of changed, right? Like I started dealing with feelings that I didn't really know how to deal with. So I think that's when I started doing those things that were self-destructive because I didn't know how to deal with those large things. So I did I really did the best I could dealing with what I was given, but ultimately I ended up doing things that were really self-destructive. I started hanging out with people that, I knew I shouldn't have been hanging out with. Great people, if there's anybody watching. But at that time, I think we were all hurt in different ways, and that's why it was so easy to, get along with them and relate with them. But at the end of the day, we were involved in drugs, and that's kind of how everybody, numbed what they were feeling, and we had fun and a little bit too much fun at times, But I think that's really where I started hanging out and doing those things that ultimately I wasn't a bad kid, but I was making bad choices, right, to deal with whatever I had to deal with. And then at 12 also was my first kind of encounter with jail because I snuck out and got caught. I mean, it was on New Year's Eve. It's not going to get caught on New Year's Eve, driving in a car with somebody far older, also a great person if you ever watch it. Hindsight's 2020, okay? But snuck out with really good friends, and my mom, bless her soul, got a cold, and we were in jail, and that was kind of my first encounter with that. And she had to come pick me up over in Glen Ellen, so like not too far.
Thank God.
Still close. But that's really kind of when, like, things kind of crashed for the first time. Like, jail, you wouldn't really have expected me to be there, like I made a mistake, but it wasn't huge. My mom came and picked me up. Bless her. She came and picked me up. I went home, and that's kind of when the next set of events started happening. Sorry, my dog.
So
it's kind of crazy if you can hear him in the back.
He's your cheerleader.
Yes.
I got Nugget over here curled up. He's
yes. Littlefoot's not far, I'm sure. Kitty. He'll show up.
Yeah, so you were in a pretty heavy relationship at a young age during that time as well, and you were telling me a little bit about how you had that was a very cherished relationship at that time, and that was everything in those moments. And when the breakup happened, that was just all heartbreaking. How did that make you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's hard, but I think looking back, like, that was one of my real first relationships that I really felt loved. I really felt like I fell in love, like when you say I love you for the first time and everything pauses, right? And and that was the feeling with that. But then at 12 or 13, he decided to step away, and that really kind of broke me because, of course, I have some daddy issues. So like I always wanted that comfort.
Takes me back to that time. It's almost like PTSD when.
Right. So I wanted that comfort of a boy, of a guy, right? I was young, so let's face it, it was a boy. But I wanted that comfort from a male figure ultimately, because I hadn't gotten that. So when that happened, that was really hard as well. But once again, like, I had started doing things I shouldn't have, and slowly started dabbling in drugs and things. So I used that definitely as a crutch.
And not too long after that, you had a really big move to Arizona. What, a year or two after the breakup, you were 15?
Yeah. So I had a relationship, one more right after that before I moved to Arizona
before you moved there, okay.
Yeah, from like 15 or so to 16. And that was a controlling relationship, but like looking back, it's taught me so much, you know. So in the moment, there were so many things that I should have thought like, this is, you know, too controlling. And I hope, you know, younger people that listen to this, younger women that listen to this, really.
At that age, you don't realize the toxicity of the situation.
Yeah, yeah. And like you know, I talk to them now, and they're great. And it was a learning lesson. You know, it really was. I I wouldn't know where I'd be without that relationship and what I learned now looking back from that relationship. So I'm really happy that it happened. But then yeah, I moved to Arizona. So big move. Loved Arizona. I visited, and I was like, you know, still young. So I'm like, Mom, we have to move to Arizona. She's like, what? I'm really comfortable here, and I have a good job. What are you talking about? We have to move to Arizona. Well, I really love it, and I think you'll really love it, so we should just get up and move. So she's like, you know, if you can find me a job there, we'll talk. And I was like, oh, I'm going to find you a job there. So I found a good job.
So I had no idea that was your move at that time.
Yeah. So, you know, I would find a job here and there, and she's a nurse, so I mean, nurses are needed always, right? And so I would start looking around, hoping I would find something, but pretty dedicated to find something too. And she would apply to a few, but then she applied to one, and sure as heck, she got an interview. So,
you know, signs from the universe meant to be.
Right, yeah. So she got a phone interview, and then we actually got to have her fly out there to have her second interview. So she got to fall in love and see all the good, you know, the nice weather and the mountains and all the good things about Arizona, and ended up really falling in love with it as well. And at that point, it was a better job opportunity even than she was receiving here. So like, who wouldn't want the sun and more money?
Right.
And
was that when you first started realizing the seasonal depression? Because that's a big thing for you.
Yeah, huge thing. Yeah, so I mean, I think I noticed it maybe a little bit before that, but I knew that I felt so much better because I had taken a few trips to Arizona before I brought my mom. And when I would go there, there was no little session of sadness when I was there. It's like when you walk out your door in the morning, you just feel the sun hit you, and it's like, oh, this is great. You know, and you never really have to worry about, you know, going outside and getting nowhere, not being able to like be comfortable driving, which causes total anxiety, right? So for me, that's also something I struggle with. So if I don't have to have the anxiety of driving in like winter weathers and things like that, that's a huge plus. So I mean, yeah, I really realized that the sun was extremely important for me when I first went out there and started kind of getting to experience Arizona.
Absolutely. That's amazing. And that's something that you've held on to. You know, I always thought it's either Florida or Arizona.
That's right. I know. And we need to put a poll up sometime because I need to know like pros and cons, because I am seriously pulled between the two because I love the mountains, but I love the beach. But
you got Lake Havasu in Arizona. It's a beautiful place.
Oh, I know. There's so many beautiful places and so many beautiful things.
In Arizona too.
I know. You know what? It's okay. We'll have places in both. You know.
Yes.
Best of both worlds.
That's amazing. So even at a very young age, you started, you know, that self-awareness and really creating the life that you wanted, and even relocating. That's really cool. So what happened in Arizona? Tell us a little bit about your journey there.
Yeah, so I mean, the original move gave me like a lot of happiness, you know, because of, you know, the weather and the things. I just felt so much better. And I think like to me, vacation means like palm trees and warm weather. So it almost kind of felt like a permanent vacation, which who doesn't want to be on a permanent vacation?
Right.
Be real. But I still had setbacks. I had really bad run-ins like with drugs there still, and I got addicted to things there. Still kind of let some of those old habits carry over with me, which then of course brings shame and, you know, this and that, because you're like, I had this fresh start and I'm bringing old habits, but like at the same time, we both know that addictions are, you know, hard to kick. So some of those habits brought over. But then luckily I had the opportunity to go to Grand Canyon University over in Arizona in Phoenix, and that's a private Christian university. So when I got there and I got around the right people, all of that just kind of went away. You know, it wasn't my worry. It wasn't the people I was around. The people I was around were wanting the same things I was wanting, and you know, wanting an education and to better themselves. And like we were able to worship, and that was kind of like the first time, my first introduction, I think, back to church or any sort of worship. Yeah, because they had it on campus. So that was my first time where I kind of got to have that release again and know that I wasn't alone in everything and kind of have those good influences back in my life. So that was that was a highlight reel kind of moment when I was in Grand Canyon University. It was a nice break from all of the things that were happening previously.
Yeah, that's amazing. And your faith is a huge part of who you are, and you know, a huge part of what's been able to get you through,
Right.
all these things. So you had mentioned that college had brought you back a little bit. So was that something that you had grown up with, being in a faith-based home, or how did you
Yeah.
how did you find your faith?
Yeah, so I always had gone to church. I always remember going to church on Sundays, over in Freeport, United Methodist Church. So I always remember going to church. But it was kind of compared to what I'm used to now, it's more of that like modern Christian. I'm actually a member of like Community Christian Church. So shout out to everybody at Community Christian. Um, but it was completely different for me when I was going to church when I was young. We went to, you know, it was like old hymns and things like that, to where I'm used to like bright lights and music and hundreds of people. And that's more my jam now because that's just how I feel it best. But church definitely and faith has always been a thing that has set good morals for me.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Having that community to fall back on, and just like you said, knowing that you're not in it alone, and there's
Give me 1 second. I gotta go check on Taz. I just can't. Give me just 1 second.
no problem. He's the cutest little thing.
Taz, come on, boy.
Working through his anxiety.
Okay, I can't promise it won't happen again, but
No problem. Oh my gosh, I remember how it was with Tipsy and Jack.
no, he's gonna start again, I'm for sure. But it was worth a shot.
Okay, so where were we? So you found the college,
Yeah,
and you had gone there for a couple years, and then
I'd gone there for about like a year, and then like let's face it, it was a super expensive. I mean, it was a university, a private Christian university. So after going there for a little bit and studying nursing, I just couldn't afford it anymore. So I went back to um, just a community college, and then try to continue getting some of those credits and things out of the way there.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
after not being able to really complete there either, like I said, just being back and forth, like dragged after leaving the private Christian university, I then, you know, did fall back with some of the people around that I probably shouldn't have. And so, with that being said, there was a lot of shame and guilt about not being able to feel like I ever fully, you know, like allowed myself to complete those courses and to show myself like how good I could have been, or, you know, so there's just a lot of things that I dealt with there too that affected me later on, because then I doubted myself going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I've absolutely been there. And is that sort of when you started realizing that ADD or ADHD might come into play or be a factor? And
Yeah, so I mean, I think more when my anxiety kind of started. Um, some of the things I had been through and some of the places and things that I had gotten myself into and been a part of, I think I always felt like maybe I shouldn't be there. And like I think those things started to cause me anxiety after you've been in sort of situations that you shouldn't have or that really surprise you when you're getting yourself involved in bad things. Like I think that's kind of what started to cause me anxiety, and just kind of knowing you shouldn't be doing those things. So I think it starts to cause anxiety when you are doing those, because you're
yeah,
still,
a
I mean,
lot of
especially in the past, you're still younger and you have to go home and you have to explain where you've been, and you have to, so it always carries this shame or guilt or anxiety, because you have to keep building on lies and things, when you're living that kind of lifestyle, and that's hard on somebody, for sure.
yeah, and it's very inconsistent and unpredictable, and from one moment to the next, you just
Right, right. There's never really a
have
time
a
to
lot of
like
different options.
calm down. You always feel like you're on the deep end. So
So, was that what kind of led you guys to move out of Arizona and back to Illinois, or what brought on the move there? That's a big
yeah.
change.
So what brought on the move back to Illinois from Arizona actually was we had a lot of family that was ill in Illinois at that time, and my mom felt like she needed to come back to Illinois to take care of her family. Like I said, she's a nurse, so like that really, like,
It's a calling
saving
home.
people and helping people is really her thing, especially when it's her family. So to be that far away from family at that time was not something she was willing to be. So we kind of, we got out pretty quick and went back to Illinois, to take care and to be around family, because we knew they didn't have much time left. And I think actually everyone ended up passing within a very short time, maybe like 6 months after we moved back. It was a very short time after we moved back. But you never want to miss out on any little bit of time you get with family before. So I mean, I never hold any regret on my mom about moving back. I had many options in Arizona to be able to stay. But it was with different managers and friends and things like that. And I just wasn't old enough to really be without my mom at that point. And I knew that it wasn't a good choice. And she told me it wasn't a good choice. And as much as she thinks I don't listen to her, I promise her I do. And so that really, I didn't really have a choice. So I moved back to Illinois with her, and we all moved back.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a I'm it's so you're so blessed to have had that time with your family, the short time that you had left, but that had to be really heavy and trying even in going through that process, knowing that time was limited. How did you
Wait,
guys
it's
cope
hard to
with
hear
that?
you. So sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Oh no.
there you go. I can hear now.
Okay, I'm so sorry. But yeah, so it's so good, and you guys are so blessed to have had even the short amount of time that you guys had left with
Hmm.
family. But even through that had to have been so trying. And how did you guys manage and cope through those moments? And what was it like, in the moments when you did have to say goodbye?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think we helped each other as much as we could. I think we supported each other as much as we could. I definitely don't think we had as many tools as we do now to work through the things that, we more currently deal with. Um, but at the end of the day, we had each other and we leaned on each other. And I think that was our best tool at that point, was really just being with the family that we did have and leaning on the family we did have and on each other. Um, that was our greatest, yeah, definitely our greatest tool at that point.
And your mom has always been your guardian and protector. It seems like she's always cherished your energy and made sure that it was protected as much as possible, which is amazing. So, you had mentioned that you really, hadn't had the tools that you have now. So, what did you do or go through? You had mentioned actually you had gotten back with Dom at that point in time.
Right. Yeah. So when I got back, the idea of getting back to, sorry about the dog. The idea of coming back to Illinois was really to get back into nursing because, like I said, I had fallen off of that in Arizona after just not being able to complete. I was like, you know what, maybe I just need to take a break. So the idea of coming back was to really get back on track. My mom moved into Naperville, and I was supposed to go back to school, and I was doing all the things, taking all the tests, like entry exams and things to get back into school over here because, I was in Arizona, so it's different rules from state to state. And I was really excited, honestly. I was ready to get back to what I was supposed to be doing and get back on track. And then I started talking to Dom again. And that was something that I couldn't let go of. I wasn't ready to let go of. And, I had all the warnings and things, but like that wasn't going to stop me because that's who I wanted to be with. So we got back together, and, it was amazing. Like, that was my first love back. And so I was elated. And
we were roommates. We were the Three Musketeers for so long. And
right. I mean, there were so many fun times that had come out of that, and just so many good memories. And, I wouldn't change it. Yeah, I wouldn't change it for the world. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I say about any of this story that I tell. Like, I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't change the choices my mom made. I wouldn't change the choices that my dad has made in the past, because like those have all made me stronger, regardless of how they hurt me then. They have all made me stronger, in the future. So really, there's no shame or blame in any of it. It's more or less like, thanks for helping me learn the lesson. So when I had come back, let's see. Yeah, I come back. So we battled through some more intense issues. Oh my gosh, my dog, I'm so sorry. Everyone moves around at this time, and he is like neighborhood watch.
He's the cutest little thing too.
If he ever comes over by me and stops protecting, I will try to show him. Yeah, so when I got back, we got back together, and then we got both back into bad habits together. I feel like when you're an addict, like you are in active recovery for the rest of your life. I know that's hard for like some people to hear, so I'm sorry. But like, you really are. I mean, because it's so easy, no matter where you're at in life, right, to be able to sit back, and that's why you need mental health and support and somebody to talk to. And that's like some of the big reasons that we're giving you guys these platforms and speaking out about our own stories, so that you have, the ability to be able to have those things for yourself. But as we got into, kind of those bad things again, I asked my mom. I was like, Mom, if he can't move in, then I'm moving out.
So is that when you guys got the apartment? Because that's right before.
No.
Was that before?
No, yeah, that was a little while back. We all lived in the Huntington. But at that point, when I had first moved back, I actually told my mom, like, if he can't move in, then I'm moving out. So when we moved out, we were actually in his car. So we lived out of, yeah.
That's right. You were telling me that.
Yeah, so we actually lived out of his Jeep. And it was like in the middle of winter. Like, it was not ideal conditions, but we just wanted anything to be together at that point. That's what it was about. And we both had problems with addiction, and that's some of the low points that it can bring you to. I had people there to support me, but I was pushing everybody away because I had those things I was dealing with and those demons that I was dealing with at Phillips Point. So I think that leads us more to 2013.
Yes. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah. So
hard.
yeah,
Losing
2013.
Dom was hard.
Yeah, 2013 we lost Dom. I think there was a lot of signs that led everyone, he wrote a paper in junior high that, he thought he was gonna die young and things like that. But, being his girl, his first love, like I just always thought, that we would be forever. And you hold on to those types of things, even though things get really hard. Um, and in 2013, he took his own life. Uh, so that was the next huge hit. That I completely fell off the wagon. Like anybody that was close to me, I pushed away. Like family wise, I pushed away, and my friends really became my family at that point. Whether they were giving me the right things or we were doing the right things, that didn't matter to me. But I really turned to. Everybody loved him. Right? He had a huge friend group. And they were really there for me. So I owe a lot to them and the people that were able to be around at that time. Um, but I did really, it was one of the most difficult things yet that I've gone through.
I mean, at that point, you had just everything that you had been holding on to was just one day gone, and
Right,
how does anybody really cope with that or heal from that? And
right. And actually, like getting the phone call, that wasn't with him, or I'd like to think it would have happened, but um, I think getting the phone call that he wasn't with us anymore was huge. And so of course I rushed over there and unfortunately just got to see the last little bit of everything happening. Um, and then we actually buried him on my birthday, so that was hard. Um, but as it's gotten further along, like I think it's a day for me to be able to celebrate him and also celebrate me, and just kind of, you know what I mean? Um, he was hurting, let's face it, you know what I mean? So I think at that point he needed to step away and that was the only way he knew how. Um, and that's sad, right? And that's why we're advocating like we're advocating for. Because no one should have to be in that split second decision where they end their life that they don't have somebody to be able to turn to, or they don't look down at a t-shirt that says mental health is important and remember for just that 1 second that their story shouldn't end, and things like that. So I think that's our major passion and our major goal with all the platforms that we have right now is to make sure that people know that like you matter and life is up and down, and it doesn't matter who you are, how much money you have, or where you come from.
if
um,
we can make it, you can make it.
right. And if you believe in yourself, you can make it. But there's going to be times that you need to lean on people. And that's kind of what we plan on or hope to create with the community that we're opening up for everyone, is that hopefully you can find somebody or you can post and somebody can lift you up or lift your spirits, or that we post something that lifts somebody's spirits on a day where they really need it. Because sometimes, like the littlest things.
One smile can change somebody's life forever. It's just that it takes one word sometimes, one word, one act of kindness, and it's thank you so much for sharing. This is just not
Yeah,
easy, and that's why it's important because people need to have a safe place where it's okay to talk
right,
about it, let it go, and relate.
right.
Thank you so much. Very very shortly after, you had mentioned that you had kind of fallen back and reverted back out of some unhealthy habits, and you weren't really maintaining your mental health after losing Dom either. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I definitely turned back to drugs 100%. I mean, that was my go-to because I needed to numb everything. I didn't know how to deal with all that. I had seen things I hope that nobody ever sees. I had been through things that I hope through that nobody had ever been through, and I'm sure throughout the years we'll share more to be able to reach different people. But I think that I I eventually got to the point that I had nothing left. I had I had no drugs, no home, no place to go. It was cold. Um, no money, and so it was time to go home. I had to stop.
And you had gotten back home and started to get on the right track and into the right motion of things, but
Yeah,
you still had some legal trouble that you were facing. And that was a huge hit, right? Because in the midst of you, what seems like progression at that time, you're still being held back. So tell us how
yeah,
you felt in those moments. Like, how did that affect you?
yeah. So once I went through that super big downfall of the drug abuse after losing, I went to rehab. I went to try to get some help. I knew that was. I mean, there was nothing else that was helping at that point, and I couldn't put my family through trying to help me through those types of things because it's just not a pretty situation. So rehab was definitely where I needed to go. So my family got me there. Thank you for that. Um, but when I got out, I did learn a lot of great things in there, and we'll go into that a little bit later. Um, but when I did get out, things were going a lot better. And then I had to, like I said, like you just mentioned, I got into some trouble previously when I was into everything. And so when I got home, I actually had a court appearance to appear to because I had missed, after losing, I had missed a whole bunch of probation because I had gotten into some trouble with the police. And so once I had gotten out of rehab, I had to go and appear in court and turn myself in for missing probation time. And when I did that, they took me into custody. Uh, so that was hard too because I was like, I'm trying to do the right thing.
Right.
Come on.
It's just like you get whacked over the head and you're just like knocked down a few pegs. And so oftentimes we feel like we'll make 10 strides forward just to make 50 strides backward.
Right.
So, how did you deal in that moment?
Yeah. I mean, at that point, I wasn't, I wasn't dealing well for sure. Um, but I think I just, and anybody in that situation, just try to fit in, you know what I mean, and do the best you can while you're there. And all you're praying is that you're gonna get out as soon as you can. Um, but I mean, I'm sure we'll talk later about kind of like what got me there and things like that. But in jail, I think the most important thing to talk about is like in jail, I figured out I was pregnant. Um,
Yeah, how did that? I mean, that's a life changing.
yeah. So I mean, at first I was like, I'm what? I sitting in a cold middle bench, and yeah, it was a police officer and a nurse, and that's who's telling me I was pregnant. So like there was a lot of shame and guilt, right? That's what a lot of people deal with who go through things like drug abuse and mental health. There's a lot of shame and guilt. So like when those things hit, they can have such a huge hold on you, like whether you think they do or not. And I think that's part of doing like the self-reflection and really realizing like what's causing like these emotions and things like that when you're going through things that are hard. Self-reflection is going to be one of your biggest keys to go and say like, how am I feeling, what's affecting me, so that you can really try to like get out of that.
Figure out what your triggers are. You have to know what your if you don't take the time to become self-aware and reflect on the things that are triggering the anxiety or the drug use or the depression, the fear,
Right.
things that alter our lives in negative ways, once you can pinpoint that, you can establish better habits to work around it and navigate through those emotions in a healthy way.
Right. And like at these times you feel so helpless. So like I would love to have thought what you just said. You know what I mean? But you see that later on down the line. Um, but when I was in jail for about 2.5 weeks, like I said, it was where I figured out I was pregnant. So of course I already started to think like, how am I ever gonna tell my daughter that? Or, at that time I didn't even know I was having a daughter, but I do have a beautiful little 7-year-old daughter. Um, but I already started thinking about those things, but I'm like, hold on, I have to get through this first. um, so that time there really scared me. I mean, being able to get a pamphlet about pregnancy and how it was supposed to be, and it was printed out and given to me in a cell, like that really makes you feel some type of way. Because in the back they have a nice little picture frame for you to put your baby in if you're not out before your baby's born, and that hit me hard because that could have been me. I mean I did get out, and I'm so blessed for that. But that was a big wake up call. In many 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 ways, right? Um, so
That you got out, praise God, within 2.5 weeks. But what life changes did you have to make, or did you choose to make at that time?
yeah, I mean that was the total turnaround, right? Like I'm just got out of horrible drug use. I got out of like loss of every sort of kind. Drug use of my own, drug use friends around me, loss, issues from, when I was younger. And I said, you know what, like I'm about to bring a little human into this world and I've got to turn it around. So I did my very best day in and day out. Had a beautiful pregnancy, really didn't have any complications, so I'm super blessed for that. And I think I realized that, mental health is such a huge thing. That's when I had to start making even teeny steps, and it's not even close to what I'm doing now, but like I really had to start saying, mental health is going to be huge. How am I going to, raise a child and not understand these basic fundamentals? So I think that was a huge huge realization at that point, and some of the things that I learned.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said you had right before getting taken into jail, you had rehab that you were able to utilize, and tools, and what were your go-to? What were some of the tools?
Yeah, so and we have like some of the major things that I loved was art therapy. Oh, too high. He's like, this sounds emotional. Can I please help? I think definitely in rehab, art therapy was one of my favorites. I had somebody in there that did yoga, and I loved doing that. Still one of our favorites, right? But yoga was a huge thing. He's like, I want to love you. I want to love you so hard. So yeah, yoga, I think journaling, that was like one of the first times journaling really became a thing for me. They do a lot of great things in rehab, and I think there's such a stigma around going to rehab and who you must be to have to go there. But like never, I would never shy away from having to go there if you really think you need the help. Um, because
Yeah,
you learn a lot of good tools there. I mean, the breathing techniques, the all that. You have a counselor, somebody to talk to that's unbiased, that really just cares about you getting better, which is something I'm still a huge advocate for, is having a therapist. You're good. Tazzy's the barker, he's the lover.
Oh my goodness. I love you, honey. I love you. Crawl, honey. Sit. I'm so sorry.
You're good.
Yeah, but I mean, those are incredibly helpful, and we touched on that a little bit because, the rehabs I went through, there was a huge stigma behind it, but then it's just so beneficial and so helpful, and it's amazing that you had those outlets at that time because, you know,
Yeah, and I had a lot of great people that were in my family that were able to come and see me during that time and write to me and things like that. And that's really important to have somebody that is able to do that and support you while you're in there, because it is a lonely time trying to figure out and trying to self-reflect and things like that. So I think if you ever find yourself in that situation, try to find somebody that can, reach out to you while you're there. If they can't come see you, write a letter. Don't be shy to give them that address and let them love on you a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's around the time when you met your husband, AB, and he
Hmm.
came to a huge play throughout your pregnancy and raising Nina.
Right. Let me see where I'm at in all these notes here. um. Yeah.
You were for 4 years. You were a single mom at that point.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I had Nina at 26. And I went through a lot of postpartum depression, thinking of it afterwards, or in a mix of just like not knowing who you are, because I think you go from a working, you're working, you're doing all of those things, and those are the things that define you, and then you go to being a mom, and then you lose kind of your own self identity. Um, and so that was hard for me. So I really struggled between the depression and things. And like moms think, right? It's supposed to be the best time of their life, the most happy, right? You have a little baby. And like, don't get me wrong. I mean, without Nina, would I have been able to turn all those things around? Like, she helps me probably more than I helped her, like it really is a give and take. And, I think that oh, Dad. I think that you really realize that you have to find something still that helps you identify yourself more than just about some people. That is like their life calling, and I support every one of you that is your life calling. It's just to be that stay-at-home mom, and you guys do it so well. But for me, I needed something to help me find myself again, especially after depression, the anxiety, everything I had been through. But I knew life was gonna look a lot different. I ended up finding kind of two of the jobs that kind of defined where I'm going or where I went past that.
Yeah,
So
because you've always been in a highly creative and like I know you from years of experience. You're just not one to stay still or stay stagnant. Like you love to create, you love to do, you love to
right.
connect with people. And you were Nina was about four. No, it was about 4 years ago. So she was about three, and you found It Works, which was a great outlet for you. Tell us a little bit about how you
Yeah.
came to.
Yeah. So in 2018, I actually ended up finding both Starbucks and It Works, and I started It Works, and then like almost immediately after started Starbucks, and um so I was really pulled then, right? Because I had to find time to do both, and I was a new mom. So I think Starbucks
Oh,
more
you're
than
kidding! Wow.
anything, because that's what felt normal to me. I was like, oh, okay, well, Starbucks, that's the more norm job, right? Direct sales is a little different, a little new to me. Um, but after 4 years with Starbucks, I realized that I got all the way up to store manager, started as barista, you know, to barista trainer, shift supervisor, assistant store manager, all the way up to having my own store. But and they taught me so much. I mean, I could never thank them enough for what they taught me, and leadership skills and showing up for myself. And um, I could go on and on about what they I really have gotten from them. But what I noticed is that when I got to the top, once I got to store manager, it didn't fulfill me in the way that I needed to be fulfilled, and my mental health was lacking because I wasn't able to find the balance between work and home with a job like that. It just wasn't. And
I
it had
came
nothing.
in.
What was that?
Yeah, I came in a little bit a part of that
Right.
towards the end, and I remember you would just be so out of your mind with stress because you felt like you weren't living up to the expectations that you had for yourself in that situation.
Right. And so, as I wasn't filling my expectations for myself, I really had to think for a while, is this for me, or should I just step away and pour myself completely into the opportunities that I have? Because, as you were coming in, we already had started talking about MR2 Connections. you know,
Yeah.
like things were
That was a
happening.
huge change from M's Cuties to MR2. I mean, and you were so on board with me when we had first, combined your love of crafts with my desire to save the animals, and that was I've always been so incredibly supportive, and it felt like it was a great time for you to when we rebranded. But what kind of urged you to follow along with that, or because we came together, it happened so fast.
It did,
Tell
yeah.
us a little bit about your thought process on that.
Yeah, so I mean, of course, when I was so stressed and like working with Starbucks, but like making this transition to MR2 and trying to figure out how that was going to be for me and how that would possibly work out with having kind of it works, but only a foot in with them. And then how I was going to fully support MR2, but still be present at a store. And I was like, you know what, something's got to give. So back in August, I was able to let go of Starbucks and truly kind of run with what I felt was right to me. Um, but I knew that it was going to take a huge switch uh, of what my daily life looked like, the discipline that I needed to be able to do it. And then I had It Works and I had MR2 Connections. And it's just kind of like we've had to go in and just, by faith and put the fear behind us and really just go after our dreams because we have we just have every opportunity now to be able to do that. So we were really able to kick off an Etsy shop. We were able to like start creating and we just keep going in with faith and pushing forward. And all these things are like so bizarre to us still. This is our first join in live and we're doing it. So it's like one day after another, we just keep pushing. And I think that's what's been best for me is to be able to kind of like embrace that creative side again because I wasn't able to do that in the corporate job. I wasn't able to be creative myself. I had to follow a rule or a plan of somebody else's creative plan for my store. Whereas with what we do, it's like you pull your creative juices in, I pull my creative juices in, and together we come up with things that we both love. And with It Works, and it's really being able to help others learn how to be financially stable and have their best nutrition and wellness and skincare and really love themselves and celebrate themselves. And so both of these together is like my
They
dream come true.
complement each other beautifully. It's
Yeah.
perfect. I was actually, yeah, that was my next point. It's just so amazing how in line these both have fit you perfectly. And we've been able to take so much from what you've learned from It Works, and the structure and being able to even brand yourself in that sense requires 100,000% creativity, and you are wholly and solely you in everything that you do, and it's just amazing the people that you're able to reach. And yeah, tell us about how it's really helped you in your journey throughout the years that It Works and
Yeah.
so
So It Works. So I started it 4 years ago, kind of started doing it more full time since August, since quitting the corporate job. And I think what's really helped me with It Works is it's helped me become kind of the independent woman that I am. It's kind of helped me step into that and get out of kind of all the dark places that I've been and kind of let go of that and kind of celebrate and push forward because I work with a group of like-minded business women that are motivated and passionate and ready. I mean, every day on power hours, ready to push, ready to hit their next goals. We just came back from conference. We're
Oh yes, tell us about the conference. You have been so fired up. You're
yes,
fired.
yes. So we're fired up. We have a conference every year. This year, of course, couldn't look the same because of COVID and everything that's going on in the world. So that stinks, but I think It Works, is never going to miss a beat. And that's just the kind of company they are. They're faith-based, so that's huge for me. And they always make sure that they, everything that they get from this company that they give back and they know who blessed them with their blessings. So that really aligns with me. And as far as It Works goes, like it's business trips and things to Florida and all over really to meet up with like-minded women, be close to the fire, get all these exciting announcements. Our coach Mark Pentecost is amazing. He is a coach and a teacher, so his speeches are always, the best.
On point.
And we worship at the beginning of every conference. And one of the things that the worship leader had said to us this time is to wrestle until you win. And I think that really hit home with me, because we can let mental health or whatever we've been through in the past, get to us or to hold us back, or we can just take each day, wake up, ground ourselves with whatever that means for you, because it can mean different things for everybody. But to really ground yourself and know that we have a fresh start every day, and we need to wrestle all day long. We need to not give up. Like, if you really have dreams that you want to accomplish and you really are motivated and you want your life to look different, you want to be able to give back more than you ever have before, you want to be able to advocate, like, that's really what it's about, is taking each day by its horns and pushing. Because I heard just something in a Will Smith talk recently,
I love
that,
him. He's
yeah,
so great.
so great,
Oh,
so great. He's like,
oh,
everybody wants to know how to be like, great like me, like an actor like me. But he's like, so many people want that, but they're not willing to do the work. It's
right,
not like he just got there from,
right, exactly.
0 to 100. He takes a lot of work, and uh,
Daily habits that he does, and you're constantly learning in those situations too. You have to be growing and evolving, because the second you stop growing, you're regressing, you're dying.
right,
So
right.
important.
So I think that's important. I mean, and so It Works, I mean, has helped me just tremendously, putting me by women that support and cheerlead me along the way. And like, I mean, we have the best of plant-based products and facial and skincare, and I really stand behind my products. Stand behind my company. We've been around for 20 years, so we have that credibility. We've rebranded recently, and I absolutely love it. Um,
I can't wait to try it.
yes, yes,
I'm
yes, yes,
excited.
yes. Our smoothie. I can't wait for you to try it. You're absolutely gonna love that one.
Yummy,
Um,
yummy. And the hair, skin, and nails. Oh my God, the hair, skin, and nails. I did it before. I need to do it again. I keep saying I'm gonna do it. I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
yes,
But like
the
my
eyelashes.
eyelashes like flew out for a mile. I could not believe
Yes.
it.
Yes, 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 they are great. And so I think that, that kind of leads us to where ultimately we are now. I have It Works, and we're running MR2 and this platform, Monumental Minds, and really just trying to advocate and be true and authentic to both of us, and what we both find near and dear to our heart.
And it's been so amazing, and it's just as it's rapidly evolving, it's just so much more exciting, to see the progress that we're making in even a short amount of time. And we couldn't be doing it without you guys. And you've had such great, both of us have had great mentors, and you mentioned, I even had the pleasure of working with Kim and Megan Roach. So tell me a little bit about these women and how they've helped you and keep you inspired
Yeah,
daily.
so Megan Roach, she's actually the woman who enrolled me. So like, wouldn't be here without her. She followed up and followed up and followed up with me. Wouldn't give up on, really wanting me to take this opportunity. So without her, really, I don't know where I would have, if I would have even found it. So really, her consistency and her passion and her drive have really been able to help me stay with this company. And Kim Whitlow, shout out to you for she let me stay there all weekend. She welcomed us into her home and was ever so gracious and a great host. Also Rachel Cromer for letting us watch a conference over there and welcoming us all into your house. But Kim Whitlow, she really just she's really in tune with God, and she's such an inspiration in that way. And she's always willing to pray over us, and she prays us out on every Zoom that we do, and really like puts blessings over all of us and our team. And so we're really grateful for her and what she brings to the team.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And having those positive influences in a daily, I mean, I know you get text messages from Mel Robbins, which is awesome. You're constantly fueling your mind with not even people that you can talk to and mentor with and coach with on a daily basis, but even these really great people that we are aspiring to be, essentially.
Right.
Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about who your role models are and who you look up to.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately my mom, she's been my number one, my hero. So I think number one mentor would be my mom, although she may not think it sometimes. I really, really do, Mom. Try to listen to what you say, and really take it to heart. So I really do look for her mentorship and her, just telling me and pouring into me everything that I need to know about how to live this life that we're living. Um, and then of course my mentors with It Works, and there's so many of you, you know who you are. And then my close friend group have been so good to me. And Mel Robbins, I mean, I can't even really explain how much she's been helping lately. I have uh, the High Five Habit has been changing my life. If you haven't read it, I highly suggest giving it a read. Rachel Hollis has been absolutely huge to my growth. Even before Mel Robbins, Rachel Hollis was big for me. Actually went to one of her little events as well and got to meet her. That was a blast. Uh, and then I think Brendan Bouchard has been huge. But first and foremost, the Fab Five. Okay.
Ah! I can't
Okay.
wait to meet them. It's gonna be so good.
The Fab Five Queer Eye. If you haven't watched it, please go watch all the episodes. Binge it. Okay. No, I'm not getting paid for this. I promise. I just love them so much.
They are amazing.
They just speak so much life. And like when I quit Starbucks, quit the corporate world, I really I went through a really bad depression. So when I was able to turn their show on and have such light and positivity and see them change other people's lives and get them out of these stuck, stagnant like areas of their lives, that's really what I mean. All I was doing was sleeping. But when I would watch this, it would give me life to like get up off the couch and at least do something, So I really do put a lot of it towards that because I think they were a little bit of light I had on a lot of dark moments after I was dealing with like the shame and things of quitting the corporate world before I could really adjust into where I'm at now.
Yeah, absolutely. And people like that, I mean, they're just people
So
like
authentically themselves.
absolutely incredible too, and doing it first and foremost just to help reach help people reach their true potential and empower them to create the life of their dreams and what they want to do. So thank
Yeah.
you so much for sharing that. Yeah, we are just thank you so much for taking the time to open up, and that was very emotional and raw and
Yeah.
real. And I know. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm melting. But it's again so important, and we're so grateful. I'm so grateful to have you as a business partner and a friend. So blessed to have you in my life, and thank you everyone who has been with us for our journey, and to all the new fans and supporters. We cannot thank you enough. Next week, we're really excited to announce our first official guest speaker outside of MR2 Connections Incorporated. We'll have Mika Collins share a little bit of her journey with us and how she was actually able to start her own auto detailing shop, which is super cool. So, thank you again. Please join us next week. We will be back to the normal Saturday. We did rearrange things a little bit due to the conference, and we're just so glad that you had that opportunity to go team partner up with your mentors and get that time to relight that fire. It's always a good thing to do. So join us again. And until then,
Make every day your best. Bye,
I love
guys.
you guys.